Hello.
And welcome to episode number 96 of the Makers.dev podcast. Chris, 96 is the name of a town in Greenwood County of only 1.5 square miles and just under 2,000 inhabitants. It was probably named because it lies between 6 creeks unexpectedly running south away from the Saluda River and 9 creeks running south away from the Savannah River. It has zip code 29666. Can you tell me which U.S. state 96 is in?
Savannah River sounds like Georgia, but I don't know.
It is not Georgia, but that's close, I think. It's South Carolina.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Close-ish.
Close-ish. Yeah. Partial credit. you get the remaining 4% of points after you subtract 96 from 100. How's it going?
It's going all right. This is the start of week 3 in my job at Google, and I am slowly learning what I'm actually supposed to be doing, so that's good. It lines up with what I thought, so that's good. I think I will enjoy it, but it takes a while to kind of get into it. And like part of my job is just knowing everything that's going on, and that's going to take a year. I don't like it's going to take a while. So I will feel something that has been brought up over and over is like you're always going to feel like there's just too much information, and so part of working at a big company is figuring out how to whittle that down into what you're supposed to know and know it. So that's what I'm doing.
I got a little bit of an update before we started the podcast, and it feels frustrating to me that we can't dig into it, and I totally understand why. But a safe question to ask publicly on the podcast is how you're feeling about it. How week 2 at Google? Week 2. Hold on. Every 2 weeks you get a paycheck. Has that come in?
I got a paycheck. Yes.
Was it amazing?
It was actually sort of small because it wasn't a full 2 weeks, and I'm trying to get in. So they match 401k, which is great. And this year I've only had a full-time job for 3 months, so I'm trying to get into the Roth 401k, and so I'm putting a lot of my paycheck into the Roth 401k so I can maximize it before the end of the year. So it was actually disappointingly small, but a lot of it's going into a retirement account. So
I guess the impressive part would be how much your Roth has increased in value. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I got a paycheck. It was nice.
Cool. How are you feeling about this overall? Week 2? Probably still too early to know what the day-to-day is going to look like, but how's it feel?
I'm still sort of like training and doing orientation kind of stuff. That's going to take a while. But I've also been meeting the team, and I've been, sort of defining my role a little bit. And so, so far it feels pretty good. Like it's definitely a switch from what I was doing before because it's a big company. It is way less coding than I'm used to. I knew that going in, right? Developer relations, it's a developer relations engineer. So there is some coding, like keeping up libraries and stuff like that. But it's also like just talking to people and understanding what people are trying to do with the API and understanding what engineering is doing, So, so I think it'll be good. Yeah, it's a good change of pace. So I'm happy about that, even though it's very different than what I thought I was going to be doing, even 6 months ago. Yeah.
What did you think you were going to be doing 6 months ago?
I didn't think I was going to have a full-time job, 6 months ago. Yeah. I was still thinking, So, yeah.
For sure. You didn't think your Roth IRA would be increasing quite so rapidly.
Right.
Neat. So this brings up an interesting question, which is what do you want to talk about in the future on this podcast?
Yes.
If you're going to be working on secret Google projects.
Yeah. Generally, I can't talk about much. Everything I just talked about is fine because it's either public knowledge or how I'm feeling or, part of the job description, which is also public. So I can talk about all that, right? Obviously, but not projects I'm doing or who I'm talking to or anything like that. So what do I want to talk about is a good question. I thought one of my thoughts was I could come up with a SaaS topic every week and talk about it. But I mentioned to you that means preparation, which the whole point of this podcast was to do no preparation.
Right.
I am perfectly happy talking about all of your stuff and giving, my comments about that. And in the future, if there are any updates about anything I can talk about, I'll talk about those too. But what would you like me to talk about on this podcast?
I'm fine just talking more about me. That sounds good.
Let's make this the Christian hour. Yeah, sure.
The Christian hour. People are gonna get sick of hearing about my life. I don't know. I think I'd be curious. After getting through this training period, once you start having more bandwidth to do outside projects, if that is the balance of work that you want to do. If you start doing Kaggle stuff, I love talking about that, or if you want to be working on Acorn Chat at the same time. But I think in this period of getting onboarded at Google, it makes perfect sense to just be devoting yourself entirely to that and get up to speed and learn how all their internal processes work and how you're going to be working in the organization. And then once you get to a point where you feel comfortable doing outside things, then we can start talking about the outside things.
Yep, that sounds good. And I've already started a little bit. Like I said, I'm doing that Kaggle competition about gravity waves, which is pretty cool. I finally got that working a little bit, which is neat.
Cool.
I also, in my current case studies in machine learning master's class, I have to like do a report about basically any machine learning topic. And I was like, what am I going to do it on? And I didn't think I could do it on an open Kaggle project because like you're not allowed to share data or code outside. And I was like, wait, if I just publicly release everything I'm going to put in my paper on Kaggle discussion boards, then I can do it about that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working on the gravitational wave project and then writing a paper about it. So I'm doing all that. Yeah. We can also talk about a sort of interesting AI side project, which I might be doing a little bit of work on. You want to talk about that now?
Yeah.
Sure. Do you want to introduce
it a little bit? So
Go ahead.
This is a friend of mine who had an idea for a project that probably involves AI. It has to do with medical diagnostics in a specific application of it. And the general problem is like you would type into the system a description of the thing that you're looking at. So think like, sort of analogous to if you had a patient in front of you, you might type in, they have a stuffy nose and they have a sore throat. And then the system would come back to you with a sort of diagnosis of like, have you considered that they have COVID or the flu? And then it would be a tool to like help you narrow down that diagnosis. And I should have talked with this person before this podcast because I could have given more details, but that's like the level of the problem that we're talking about.
Yeah. To be clear, that's not actually the problem, but that is close enough to the actual problem that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
You brought up a good point. So that I can talk about. So what was your question?
I was talking with Sarah about this, and she had. I'm surprised this didn't come to me myself, but she was like, "Why do you need AI for that? Like that just sounds like a database of okay, here are all the different diagnoses that this person could have." And here are the criteria for each of those things. So a row of the database would be like, COVID. Okay. COVID includes the following symptoms. Stuffy nose will be true, and sore throat will be true, and loss of smell will be true. And that's not always the case with COVID, but this is a much more simple application of it that it feels like it probably could be done with a lookup table. So I'm not sure how much you know about the problem. I know you talked with this person about what the problem would be. We're being very secretive on this podcast. It's turning into just like abstracting away of like what the actual we could dig into actual stuff when it gets to be when I'm talking about file inbox stuff. But I think I'm just curious on what your take is of like, is this an AI problem or is it just a database lookup problem, and how might you tell?
Yeah, so I had two general thoughts, and the first is it may not be an AI problem. In fact, any problem that you're about to do with AI, one of the first things that you should do is the simplest possible thing that you think might work. So that might be like a database and a lookup table. It might be linear regression, which is, super easy, taught in high school. It might be, just some basic rules, right? Some like handwritten rules. And you should always do that to get a baseline for your problem. One, it helps you understand your problem better. So like if you write basic rules for it, like you will, as a person, will have to look at the data very closely, which is always a good idea. So that's the first thing, is to get a baseline that, and maybe it is true that your baseline is good enough. The second part of that is after you're pretty sure that a baseline, you have a baseline is maybe not good enough, or you think AI can do something more. One reason, like in cases like this, why it might be better, machine learning in general, is it can look at like 100,000 data points and draw correlations that maybe you can't see as a human. So, like as a human, maybe you're going to look at a few hundred data points and try to make rules or something like that. But with a lot of these models, it's true that once you get to, past a few thousand, to 100,000 and even millions of examples, there's correlations that you couldn't possibly have connected with handwritten rules. And so, yeah, so those are the two things is, yes, you should get a non-AI baseline. And then the second is you don't know if that's better or not until you actually do the experiment. So do the experiment and see, basically.
I like that. I think one of my takeaways from that is if you can define all of the features that lead to the result, you don't need AI. But if there's emergent features of it, if there's some trait of like, if the person's wearing an orange shirt, it turns out that that's actually a really high predictor of that they have COVID, because when you have COVID, it makes the color orange so much more appealing to you. Or you don't do laundry because you're sick, so only your orange shirts are left. AI would be able to surface those higher level abstractions, and other techniques wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, so I think the next step for this project would be try to first just make the database, try to establish the baseline of if you just do a lookup table or if you just do a linear regression, which can you do that in n dimensions if you have like features and you want to say like if they have 3 of the following 5 features or something?
Yep.
And see how close it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the next step, and then we'll see if that's good enough. We could just go forward with that, and if not, we could bring out some spicy AI, and then I'll need a whole lot of your help because I don't know. I read that one book on TensorFlow.js, and that's it. But I think this would be a fun project.
Yeah. Which brings up another point, which is now that I'm at Google, I have to worry about their IP clause contract. And so I actually can't do any work on this project. I'm not going to do any real work on it. I'm happy to point to tutorials and I'm happy to do all this stuff. But yeah, now I have to think about if it gets to the point where I'm actually writing code for someone else, I need to either be convinced that it won't be a problem or get Google to say it's not a problem before I do it, which is something I haven't had to think about before. And kind of stinks about working at a big company, but I mean, they're not the only big company that does this. They all do that, but it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, but you're getting paid very well for the annoyance of having That makes sense. I'd love to talk about gravitational waves. If you're applying the same sort of process to this as you were at the GPS competition, I imagine you know a lot more about gravitational waves now. What's the scoop? Tell me about gravity.
Yeah, so gravitational waves are I don't know that much yet, so I will tell you what I do know. They did a different gravity waves experiment before, which are like, I think that was when when 2 black holes go into each other real fast, and that's what they've already detected because it's like a huge amount of energy and it's short bursts. What this is looking at is continuous gravitational waves, which are like if 2 neutron stars are circling each other for like millennia, or whatever, and they never fall into each other, then there is a lot of gravity energy because you have this circling neutron stars or black holes, but not as much as when they collapse into each other. So it's a long running wave of a very consistent frequency, or relatively consistent frequency, but the signal is much, much less. And so it's really difficult, even though you have this long running continuous wave, because you have noise on these detectors, right? And so you have to find a very weak signal among all this noise. And so actually they haven't detected these yet. These are theoretical as far as I understand. And so this is all simulated data. So they have real noise there's 2 detectors, I guess, that they are running on. They have real noise, but simulated data on top of that noise. So that's pretty interesting, I think. Yeah.
And the thing you're trying to measure is waves in space-time.
Yeah.
Which would happen if there's this huge cataclysmic event like 2 black holes smashing into each other. That's going to create waves in space-time.
Right.
And it was observed when these 2 black holes collided that there were these waves?
Yeah, so the 2 black holes collapsing into each other, that's been observed because that is call that if that has an energy level of 1,000. But if you just have 2 black holes circling each other, then that might have an energy level of 2, right? Okay. Compared to it might be 1,000 times less. I actually don't know what the magnitudes are, but it's much, much less. And so you theoretically can detect these say neutron stars or black holes circling each other in the same way. It's just the signal is much, much lower.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes sense.
How interesting. And that, I guess the two black holes circling each other would be like a rhythmic pulsing.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And I remember talking about this a little bit last time, that the way that they're measuring this is by timing the speed of light over a really long known distance. And then presumably if space-time gets stretched or compressed, the time it takes for light to bounce back and forth that known distance will stretch and condense. Is that right?
That is my understanding of how they did the two black holes collapsing into each other.
Okay.
I actually haven't looked up to see if that's the same thing that these two detectors are looking at, but I think so. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I had a thought on that, which is like, I think, wouldn't you have to have detectors on different axes? Like you'd have to have them going in different directions, because if it's parallel to the wave propagation, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yes. I think it goes. I should probably look all this up. Maybe we should have a gravitational wave series next time. But I think it's like 90-degree angles. So they have like one pulse going this way, and then it probably uses mirrors to reflect and go the other way as well, and comes back to the detector.
Okay.
That's my guess.
That makes sense. It'd be cool if we were doing that up in space, because then it's a really long distance, and presumably there's not a lot of, well, I guess then you have to go through the atmosphere, so the atmosphere would be kind of, well, no. Okay. No, I think what you would want is just entirely in space.
Yes, you put the whole thing in space, with two satellites.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that what they do?
No, it's all it's on Earth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Satellites just, that'd be really cool. Or like a satellite between here and the moon or something. But then I guess that's only one axis, and you can't control which axis that's on. Yeah, I would want like a network of satellites that are just pinging each other back and forth. And cool. Space. So what's the? I assume this is just a standard kaggle competition. What's the timeline of it? When do you need to have your results?
Like it's like January 3rd or something is the final date. Yeah.
Comfy.
Yeah, it's good. Like 2 months or something. But my paper's due December 5th. So I need 10 pages written up of what I've tried so far by December 5th.
I see. And you need to publish everything that you're doing for the competition. So is this, I imagine that puts you at a disadvantage in the competition, because then everyone else can be copying from your work.
So yes, technically, but nothing about the paper says that I have to publish my best work.
Okay.
The paper is comparing machine learning methods, and so I outlined 3 machine learning, like very different types of machine learning methods I'm going to try. And so the paper is more about getting a good baseline and comparing it, whereas Kaggle is more like, how can you eke out every little last bit of accuracy, which is actually not great for an academic paper, because it's very specific usually to that case. So for an academic paper, it's going to be more like get a baseline, and then talk about that baseline, which,
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I love that you're double dipping, also like putting work into this thing that could get you another gold medal on Kaggle, and also doing the paper. I thought in the past there might have been a other like older project that you'd already done that you could do for the paper for the masters.
Yeah, so we talked about that a little. That was the snow competition one, and I actually already wrote a significant paper, or like write up for that competition. I looked at that again, and it doesn't really answer the questions that the paper is like asking of you. So I felt like I could have reused that work, but it would have been a significant amount of work anyway. And so if I was going to do a significant amount of work anyway, then I want to do it on a new project. So
that makes sense. Yeah. And then you can have fun with a fun new project and learn about gravitational waves.
Yeah.
I like it. I have 3 main things that I'd like to talk with you about today. First is clips.marketing. I worked a bunch on that. I have a exciting couple of updates. And then next is File Inbox. And then the third is the retreat that I'm leaving for in 2 days on Wednesday.
All right.
So, first thing on Clips.marketing, I worked for 16 hours and 20 minutes, which is unusually long for a single project for me. And I just totally remade the entire clipping interface. I made it look much more like a very simple video editor. I figured out how to do a timeline on the bottom, which was really complicated. It's to make it like in divs in HTML and JavaScript, and very, very clever. But lots of like hovering things and lots of paying attention to like mouse movements, and you can make clips now on the timeline and drag their start and end times, just like on a traditional video editor timeline. So I have that on the bottom, and then I have the video in the upper left, and then I have the clips right below the video, and then I have the transcript on the right, and I can sync my clips between all the, because it's just all React components. I can sync the clips between the timeline and the transcript, so I can highlight them in the same color. So you can see the same clip in the transcript and the words that are said, and you can see that clip in the timeline, and then you can see more metadata about the clip in the title and stuff on the left side. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, and it feels good, and feels very intuitive, and I've been tweeting more about that and getting more people involved with it, and I like it. I did, however, have a little bit of a slump last week, because after I finished all this, I got it to the point where you could take any YouTube video and stick the YouTube link in, and then get dropped into this clipping interface, and it just worked immediately because it's just running off of the YouTube video. And then you could mark clips, and you could see it in the timeline, and you could see it in the transcript. And I sent this to a potential customer that I had interviewed, that I had done the mom test on. And I was like, oh man, I know exactly what this person needs to be useful. They need this interface where they can just make the clips, because then the person they have who's currently like writing down the timestamps of the interesting clips and writing titles for it, instead of their end result being this document of text that has these timestamps and descriptions, their end result can be the actual clips that then the YouTuber can preview and then send to their video editor. And when I sent this product to the customer that I'd interviewed, the YouTuber, she was like, "Oh, cool, but not what I need yet. So let me know when it can actually like do other stuff."
Oops.
And I had another interaction like that also. I had a new customer call, and I was showing him what I was doing, and he was like, "Yeah, well, this is really cool, but like I'm not doing a ton of clipping, and but you know, if I could do these things, that'd be really cool." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I felt just a little discouraged of like, I've lost a little bit of confidence that I have a minimal feature set that's actually useful. So I am still interested in building this like just for myself. I'd love to be publishing more clips of this podcast, and I have a clear picture of what would need to be done to be doing that. And I'm working with Brian on his backlog of videos for WP Sessions, the WordPress conference that he's run, to get those clips out. So like, I still have a handle on what a useful thing in this is. And I have a lot of market evidence of like Subly is a site that just does the burning in of captions. And that's going to be one of the features of clips.marketing. And like Veed.io, this online video editor, a lot of what they do is involved in clipping and making things for social media. But it does feel a little discouraging that I thought I had a customer in the bag of like, oh, I made this minimal thing that's this nice little stair step and a useful process, but it turns out they actually don't need it in the way that it currently is. So that didn't feel good, but the product looks really cool. Oh, transcripts also. I can pull YouTube transcripts in this very cheeky way that's probably going to get broken, but and it's word accurate transcripts from YouTube, and that just gets pulled in like really quickly and doesn't cost me anything. So I have this dream of this product that you can use freemium, like you just paste in the YouTube URL, and then you can make your clips, and it shows you a preview of what the thing is. And then when you sign up for an account, I'll render you the clip, but it's watermarked. And that's the only point that it's actually costing me any money, because that's when I would download the video and do the clip. And then if you want to remove the watermark or do more white labeling and stuff, then you need to pay me money. So that feels really smooth. So that's where that is. What are your thoughts?
I understand entirely why it feels bad to have that happen, but let me try to reframe it as a good thing. Like, you did the thing, right? You made something that you thought was going to work, and you had a customer conversation, and they were like, no, actually, it's this other thing, and now you get to go do the other thing if you want. That's way better than you building this thing for months and months and months and then releasing it and just no one signing up, right?
Yeah, true.
Now you have someone who talked to you, and now you know exactly what they said. And you go back to them, and they'll probably say again, oh, actually, I didn't quite mean that way.
Yeah.
It's this other way. Which is why like fast iteration is so important, because you just want to put the minimal amount of thing together that you think they could respond to, and then they respond to it, and then you do that as many times as they are, willing to do it basically with you. And that's how you build good products, I think. So yeah, like yes, I'm sure it feels bad to have them be like, no, actually, I don't want this thing. but I think you can reframe it as a good thing. Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you. That does feel better. Yeah, because what the alternative to this would have been, I just have a longer development cycle, and then I feel so much worse because I put so much more work into it. Like, as it was, this was the better part of a week of work, and is still leading towards what I think is the useful thing. Like, this is still on the right track. Hold on one second. That
I hear
our cat is not happy because the door is closed. I'll be right back.
All right.
Cats really don't like boundaries.
Yeah, like doing their own thing. Yep,
they do like doing their own thing. I like
kind of
a lot like kids.
SaaS founders.
Kids. SaaS founders. Yeah. SaaS founders are like kids and cats. Yeah, so like I am still going towards this useful thing, and it is kind of a risk of work of I might be building something that no one actually wants, but I want it. So there. And this is still sort of, I'm mentally framing it as a side project from File Inbox. This is still like a bet that I'm making that there is going to be a market here. And I feel like, as long as I'm just doing smaller iterations and like showing people frequently. And there was one more thing. I filmed a video of it, and I had in my head that like, oh man, this video is going to do so well, and it's going to get hundreds of people to look at it, and then I'm going to get so many users. And I put the video out, and it got like, I think it's at like 50 or 100 watches, and I think from that I had maybe 10 people like put in a YouTube video and clip it, and I had one person comment back like, okay, but how do I actually get the clip? And I was like, oh, you can't do that yet, you can just mark it online. So that sort of felt bad of like, I wanted more interactions with that video, but I think it's just not at the point yet where it's a useful thing, like to be able to mark clips and not do anything else with it. Like, I wouldn't use that yet because I don't need to do that. Like, I want to render the actual clip. So yeah, I think it was a good exercise, and I think I'm still summarizing all of this rambling. I'm checking in more frequently with people, and I think that's a good thing. So thank you for the reframing. That does feel better.
Yeah. A couple other things I could say about that, which is, so Jason Cohen has his amazing talk about at a MicroConf about how to build a cash machine business or something like that. Mm-hmm. How to build a bootstrap SaaS business. And he said when he started WP Engine, he had like, I don't know, 40,000 people on a mailing list or something, like his general mailing list. And he emailed them all, and he got 2 customers. And so,
wow, out of 40,000, I'd be devastated.
It was something like that. Maybe it was 20,000, or I don't know what it was. But and he talked to I can't remember who he talked to, someone else who had a big audience, and he said, no, it's always like that. Just move on. And so yeah, don't expect your general Twitter audience to convert, I think is his thing, and you just move on and try the next thing. So there you go. There's one thing. And the second is, it was a good exercise. And we're going to talk about this later, but I think this gives you a lot more data for the conference you're about to go to. It's quite a different story than I think what you had even last week. So I think that is good for that as well. So yeah, you just, as you go on, you learn more things, and you're able to get better feedback.
Yep.
That's the game.
Learn more about the world. And, if I'm making an analogy to like hiking up a mountain or something, I want to be constantly checking in with like, okay, where am I on the map? And like, where have I gone? And, okay, I made a step, and is that step in the right place of this place where I thought the step was? I don't want to like, close my eyes and walk for 100 yards and then open my eyes again. Like, I want to keep checking in as much as I can, like talking to customers and that sort of thing. It's just the traction model. It's just like you do marketing and coding at the same time, and I think I'm okay. I think I'm getting used to that model, I think is what this is. It was weird for me to check in so frequently with like a half-baked product that doesn't do the full thing. So this is good. I do want to be checking in more frequently. I do want more interactions where it's like I'm showing people a thing and they're like, ooh, not quite, or not quite yet. Because that's letting me know that I'm checking in frequently enough.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not just that. So this is not a high growth, venture backed SaaS, but Paul Graham's advice for them is like, get a customer that you can check in with as frequently as possible every day if you can. Like, you show them something in the morning, they say not quite. You work all day, you push it, and then you show them the next morning what you did. You're not at that level. I think you don't have to be that intense.
Sure.
But yeah, check in as frequently as they will, tolerate, basically.
Yeah. I am onboarding someone on this actually tomorrow. Brian's assistant so I'm kind of racing towards getting it minimally useful for his assistant. And I think that's going to be a really useful person. And that's going to be a paying customer. Like I'm charging Brian for this because it's costing me money. I got to host his videos on cloud storage. Yeah. So I think that'll be like, and that's going to be someone who needs to run through this entire thing. They need to be uploading videos and clipping them and then rendering the clips and then pushing them out to social media. Like the whole shebang is going to be tested. So yeah, that'll be and that's the sort of customer that I want. That's who I'm trying to build this for. So I think that'll be energizing to like have someone actually using the thing.
Yeah, that's you buried the lead on that one. Like, you have a paying customer or someone who's going to be a paying customer.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I guess I do. Yeah, that is awesome.
There you go.
About to get infinity revenue growth on this.
Nice.
Yeah. Just in time to include it on my slides for this retreat also, that'll be cool.
Great. Infinity revenue growth. Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the lead, I think. Yeah. Great.
Okay. I feel so much better about this than I did when I started talking about it. Yeah. Cool. What else? Path to usefulness we talked about. The customer chat we talked about. Yeah, that's it. I've found myself really falling in love with these technical problems that are very like UI based problems of like, how do you click and drag a highlighted region of text? I need to have little bars on each side of the highlighted region, and then it's like listening to mouse down and mouse drag over events, and it's so interesting and it's so different from what I'm usually doing. It's just fun building this sort of interface. I'm building a video editor in HTML and React, and like, it's cool. And it's a video editor unlike editors that I've seen before. It's sort of a mix of like Descript and traditional timeline-based editors, and it's a fun, creative challenge. So I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Yeah, glad you're enjoying it.
So that's the first thing. Clips.marketing. 16 hours and 20 minutes. And then File Inbox, I worked for 3 hours and 45 minutes, in total about 20 hours, which, small side note, I still don't understand how people work for like 40 hours a week. And my friend in med school is working like, in residency. He's had some weeks in residency where he's working like 60 hours. Like, I don't understand. How do you keep going? How do you do that for longer than a week? Do I need to be drinking more coffee? Like what's going on? But yeah, so File Inbox, I found myself feeling very energized. We talked about this before of TikTok development. Yep, I feel energized moving from one to another when I feel stuck on it. So like, after I got the feedback of that the thing that I built for clips.marketing wasn't quite what this early customer wanted, I felt sort of dejected in that. So I moved right over to File Inbox and started working on that. And then when I got stuck in that, I moved right over back to clips.marketing, and I was able to like keep momentum and enthusiasm with both projects. So that felt really good. And I did 2 really cool things on File Inbox this last week. The first is Next.js had a new version. I think it's version 13 announced this last week. And one of the cool things you can do, along with Vercel, their custom hosting platform, is to dynamically generate social media images, the OG image meta tag. And that's really cool because what that means is you can take a dynamic link of the person's file upload page or whatever else, and you can paste that in Twitter or in iMessages or on Facebook Messenger, and it comes up with a little picture, and that picture can be including dynamic data that came from the actual resource. So I was able to whip this up in like a couple hours of when you paste in a link for File Inbox now, the dynamic image for the OG image changes to include the title of your page, and it says like upload files to this person. And that's a feature I've wanted to do for years, that to do it was going to involve spinning up a Puppeteer headless Chrome instance and taking a screenshot. And with this new feature that just got announced this last week, it was trivial. You just make a React component and you do this funny voodoo telling Vercel that it's an image social type and what the size is and things. And then it just worked. You include a link to this OG image and it just makes the image for you. So that was really cool. I thought that was fun. Yeah. You don't use Next. You're mostly still on Rails when you're making stuff. Okay.
Yeah, still on Rails. I have used Next before. Okay. That was a while ago though, like several versions ago. Yeah.
Do you know what the Rails solution is for dynamically generating OG images?
You could always have done it yourself. But yeah, you need image generation technique. So like on Rails, that would be, you could use like Puppeteer or something like that. You could also use, Rails has some PNG generating like things. So you can, if you put it together yourself, there may be a gem that does it. I guess that would be the first place I would look. But as far as I know, it's not as super simple as just declaring it as a thing. Yeah. You have to like be cognizant that you're generating an image and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you're just using like baseline image magic stuff, you could probably get it done. What I loved about this technique with Vercel is that you're just making a React component. So I was able to copy my Tailwind classes for the thing that generates my little file upload widget. And yeah, super slick and also cool. Scalable. I don't have to think about the server resources.
Yeah. Do you know how they do it? Because you have to be generating an image at some point.
I assume they're doing something with Puppeteer. I don't think they publish how they actually do it though.
This is only if you use Vercel hosting, right?
It's only if you use Vercel hosting, okay. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
My guess is they have a React component to image service in their stack then, probably using Puppeteer. Yeah.
I was surprised at how fast it was though, even generating dynamic, and then subsequent requests are just using the cached image. So yeah, it's really slick and global, and Vercel's up to some cool stuff. I really like that. That was the first cool thing I did. The second cool thing was I had this experiment where I was advertising on Google AdWords for sending files, and I noticed that it was a lot of countries in the East and Middle East, like India and Bangladesh and Pakistan, who were using this. And I had the thought, I bet the file transfers for them are so slow because I'm using all the Google Cloud servers that are located in the US. And I had this fantasy about how cool it would be if I had buckets that were able to locate whatever the closest bucket was to you when you're trying to upload a file. That's the bucket that you use. And I was just chewing on this problem. How do I figure out what the closest bucket is? And I think the last time I talked with you about this, the solution I was going to use was to figure out their time zone. And then whatever their browser time zone would set to, I would make a lookup table of like, okay, I have these buckets on these continents, and so let me look, if you're in this time zone, then this is the closest bucket to you. And I thought that was going to be a really good solution because time zones aren't just your UTC offset. It's the region of the world that you're in. It kind of tells you what country you're in. And as I dug into that, I didn't realize this. There's like 500 time zones, and that's just too many. And I was trying to think, okay, they're sort of segmented by the continent that they're on, but then the Americas are split in two, and I was just getting all in the weeds. And so I thought, what if I just like ping each of the servers that I have and just see what the smallest ping is? So I don't think there's a way to ping in JavaScript, but what I did was just say, I have this test file on each of the buckets. So try to download the file from every bucket at the same time, and whichever one comes in first, that's the closest bucket to you. And I was able to do this in like 2 hours, the whole thing, and spinning up a global infrastructure of these cloud buckets on every continent except Antarctica. And there's some island, and Africa, because surprisingly, there's no Google Cloud stuff in Africa, which was interesting. But now I have a global infrastructure of file sending stuff for File Inbox. And, well, it hasn't been integrated, but I have like the backbone for it of how I would do it. And I was surprised when I ran it on my local machine. Like, it returned the correct result. It said that the one in the US was the correct one. And then the ping time to the data center in Hong Kong was like, it was like more than 10 times slower than the one in the US. So it's significant. And I felt really cool too that like I'm deploying this global infrastructure to solve this problem of like locating resources physically closer to the people using them, because the Earth is big enough and the latency long enough that actually matters and does actually make a difference in the speed that your files are uploading. So I thought that was really cool, and I think I just want to hear you say that you think that's cool too.
That is really cool. Sometimes the simple solutions are the best. Just get the not the ping times, but essentially that. Yeah, interesting. I wonder if so you said Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Are they within the Great Chinese Firewall? Because if so, then it wouldn't just be.
Oh, interesting. There's a whole thing with Hong Kong where they want to be a separate country and China doesn't want it to be a separate country. And if you say Hong Kong should be freed, then you get...
That's Taiwan, but yeah.
Is it Taiwan?
Yeah.
That's right. It's Taiwan. There's something also with Hong Kong, I thought.
So Hong Kong was under British rule for 99 years because that's the longest they could do it without declaring it part of their country or something. And it went back when we were kids. And so they are sort of separate, but also sort of a part of China. They're part of China, but sort of have their own culture and stuff because they were apart from China for 99 years.
Yeah. That's interesting. Huh. There's other servers in that region that I could check. I tried to space them out and also not just do every single location. So I did like one in London and one in South America and one in Australia, and then one in Hong Kong, and one in India. And I can see a printout of like the ping times between each of them, and it made rough sense just based on geography. But I am curious now if I made another server that was geographically close to Hong Kong, but politically further away, like Japan. I could do one in Tokyo. If there's a difference. Yeah, that's not something I considered.
Be interesting. I would just pick the top countries, like look at the top countries list and pick those.
Yeah. So India was one I needed to do for sure. Cool. If I'm gonna support them. Okay, so this leads me to my next point. So okay. I did that experiment with buying the Google ad for file sending, and was able to get tons of traffic for so cheap. And I had one of my paying customers email me the day I was leaving for the trip to Los Angeles for Andrew Culver's conference, and he said, "Hey, it's down." And I was like, "Oh no." I don't know what happened, but I think what happened is I've somehow overloaded something in the system that's supposed to be this Firebase infinitely scalable thing. Right. That's really bad. So let me just turn off the Google ad and I'll figure it out later. And I turned off the Google ad and went to the conference and came back and had my meeting with Rachel. And Rachel was like, "Hey, you have another email from this guy. He says it's still not working." And I was like, "Oh no,
no,
it was broken the whole time. No one told me. This is awful." So
he tried to tell you.
He did, but he only emailed me twice. He emailed me the first time and I was like, "Okay, I think I fixed it." And I emailed him like the next day. Okay. And then he emailed me again the day before I got back. And then I had a conversation with Rachel the day that I got back. And then I was able to fix it that day. So from his perspective, I don't feel terrible about this. Right. From his perspective, like he emailed me and then a day later I emailed back saying, "I think I fixed it," and it's still broken. And then he emailed me again and then I actually fixed it the day later and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm putting more checks in place. I need to do integration tests to like make sure that this is going to work." So, but that was the situation there. The problem ended up being nothing related to anything of overloading stuff. No. It was entirely just the it was this other bug that I'd fixed of trying to support older browsers, and if you had a newer browser, it turned out that like it actually broke it for the newer browsers, but I fixed that. So something interesting that I saw in compiling data for this retreat is that I had a whole bunch of signups that were unattributed, like paying users. I think I had 4 paying users during like a week and a half, 2 weeks ish, around when I was doing that Google ad, not attributed to the Google ad. It wasn't someone who clicked on the ad, and it wasn't someone who like received a file and then signed up for an account. I don't know where they came from, but they stopped signing up and paying for it after I stopped the Google ad. And I had a really good month last month because I had like those 4 people sign up and start paying. But I'm wondering if those were connected in a way that I don't quite understand. My original hypothesis for file sending was like, oh, I'll get people to send files for free, and then the people who are receiving the files, I'll advertise to them to sign up for a receiving file thing, and then they'll sign up and then they might start paying me. And I wasn't able to track that was actually what was happening, but I'm wondering if that is actually what was happening. So I'm going to turn that ad back on because that's been off since like before I went to this conference, and see if that starts up again. But I'm frustrated that I don't know where they came from, and that it feels a lot more hocus pocusy than what I was hoping was going to happen, which was like I could really cleanly track them through, okay, this is the sales funnel and this is how they became a customer. How else might I be tracking how the different campaigns are working?
Yeah, so this might be super. So I'll give you my data point, which is, and so this is coming from me, who I understand how the internet works and how caches and cookies and all that stuff work. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking for something sort of casually, I'll like Google around for it, and I have ad blockers, so actually I wouldn't see your ad. But when I do see ads, I don't click on them. I go to an incognito window and Google for the thing directly. Because I don't want to be tracked, and I don't want to be on lists, and I don't want to have been registered that I clicked on some weird ad. So if I see ads and I'm interested, I will Google it directly in an incognito window.
That's actually that's great for me if there are people doing that, but it's also frustrating that I can't track what they were doing. Okay, interesting. I've done similar things where like if I Google for a website name and I see their Google ad and then I see immediately under that their actual site, I'll never click on the ad. I'll only click on the site. And I've also done things where like if I hear about a product mentioned in a YouTube video, I usually don't click on the link in the description. I'll like open a new tab and just search for the thing on Amazon. Okay.
I mean, it could also be just word of mouth, but from people who are on the ad. So if people do click on the ad and they sign up and they say, hey, this is a cool thing, and they, maybe they know a friend who was looking for a file sending, and so they sent it to them. Like that's how word of mouth works, and so that could also be happening. And
if that happens though, and they send,
no, I mean like they could just like email their friend and be like, hey, I know you were looking for a file sending. Here's a URL.
And just tell them like the name of the product. Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean that's word of mouth. That's how things spread. So that could be happening too. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, I think I have to go a lot more with my gut than I was hoping. Like, just do these things make intuitive sense. Did I talk with you about the conversation I had with the Google Ads specialist? Did we talk about
I don't
that
think
last
so.
week?
No.
Okay, this is a conversation we need to have. So I forever have been ignoring these calls that I get from people who say that they're the Google Ads manager or something for this quarter, because it feels real spammy. But I had a conversation with someone at Andrew Culver's conference who is doing really well with a app involved in teleprompter software. And I asked them what their marketing channels were, and they said, oh, it's entirely Google Ads. I think people really underestimate Google Ads. And I was like, really? And they showed me their numbers, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. And I said, how did you do this? Like, what's the thing? And they said, well, those calls you get from the Google Ads specialist. I talked to them, and they actually helped. And I was like, oh, maybe I should talk to this person. So
that's great.
Not 3 days later, I got a call from one of them, and I started off by answering the phone just because I was bored, and I was like, oh, a telemarketer, cool. I'm gonna like mess with them. So I answered the phone and I was like, hello. And they were like, hello, is this Christian? And I was like, yes. and they said, I'm your Google Ads specialist. And I was like, I'm especially gonna mess with you. But then I was like, oh, no. Remember, there's this experiment. I want to see if they can actually help me. And like an hour and a half later, they had walked me through my entire Google Ads console and helped me. Like, they showed me these different places in the console that I didn't know existed, and I didn't realize I had for several campaigns selected maximize clicks instead of maximize conversions, even though I had all the conversions set up. And there were all these other esoteric things of like, oh, do this and smooth this out and do this other thing. And the very last thing they said was like, okay, so we've made all these changes. I think it would be good for you to increase your budget a little bit. And I was like, here we go. But it wasn't by that much. I think I had it set to a maximum of like $10 a day, and they said, how about like $17 a day? And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And that ad has done nothing.
Oh, really?
In terms of revenue, which is interesting. So the ad that they had me focus on was for terms involved in Google Drive file requests, which I would think would be really heavily, strongly aligned with people who want to use File Inbox. If you're searching for a Google Drive file request. That's not a thing that exists, but your intent is to make a file request for Google Drive, the thing that you can receive files. I did have a lot of signups. I think I had like 30 people sign up, but none of them converted to paying. And I think, I want your take on this, but I think the thing to do is shut down that ad and shut down all the other Google ads that haven't done anything, and try just doing the file sending ad, because I know at least I can get a lot of users really cheaply on that. And there may have been some correlation between people who were sending files and people who were signing up for the paid accounts. But I feel frustrated that I can't quite connect those two things together. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so first thought is, you said it did nothing, but it led to 30 signups who didn't convert to paying users.
Right.
So that tells me it did do something, and that the people clicking on the ad weren't people who wanted your product. So
They
something
signed up though.
Well, sometimes you got to sign up to figure out if you want it or not, right?
Okay. Yeah,
So-
maybe there's just low intent. Or maybe I'm not doing a great job of like showing them that file inbox is actually a Google Drive file request thing, and they weren't able to actually, now that I'm thinking about that the flow of someone who would click on that ad, I think immediately like they want to know that they are signing up for Google Drive, and they're linking Google Drive. And I kind of dump them into this like they're receiving the file over email thing.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have a, you know if they clicked on the ad, and so if they did, then yeah, I would make their onboarding flow all about Google Drive then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure they like link Google Drive as they're signing up. Okay.
Yeah. Now, until you do that, sure, go ahead and turn off the ad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as something to work on in the background, change the onboarding flow, and then once the onboarding flow is different, then turn the ad back on. At which point you will have more data about just your file sending ad.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fine way to do it. Turn off all your ads except file sending.
Yep.
In the background, work on this Google Drive onboarding thing.
Yep.
Then turn it back on.
Okay. This is interesting because I'm now thinking about every ad that I have experimented with on Google Ads, and to maximize those, I think I really need to be thinking about, okay, put myself in the headspace of this person. They just Googled Google Drive file request and they see my ad. Is this aligning with the thing that they're trying to do? Okay, yes, it is. They would click on it. Okay, what happens next? They're on this page that says Google Drive file request. Okay, we're good so far. Now they want to get that job done as quickly as possible, and they're drunk. What are they going to do? They're just trying to click on the biggest, greenest button. Can they get as quickly to solving their problem? And I think right now the answer is clearly not. And there's no reason why that should be clearly not. That should just be by that I solve their problem for them as quickly as possible. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, that feels good. There's stuff I can push on there. Third and final thing, the retreat that I'll leave for on Wednesday. We most of the people going have already uploaded their slides, and that's been really interesting looking at what these other people are working on, because some of them are making so much money, Chris. Some of them have 20 employees. I'm just looking at this like I'm really excited because it's a room full of people who like have done the thing that I want to do. And a few of them who are like around the same stage that I'm at, but I do feel kind of like I'm the least qualified person in this room, which feels really good. Like that's who you want to learn from. And I put a lot of work into my slides of including like the story of file inbox and telling that in a compelling way, like we talked about last week, and showing all my numbers of like where I am and what the conversion rates are and MRR and everything else. And my plan is to just like write down I think I'm going to record it actually. And like everything that every person suggests, I'm going to capture it. And then hopefully that'll set my path of what the work is that I need to be doing to get to that 20K MRR.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you're allowed to record it first. And then second is, if you record it, like you might want to, but you might get different answers, or people might be less upfront about things if they know they're being recorded. So just be careful of that. Like if someone wants to share a very unique personal story with numbers, they might not do it if they're being recorded. So.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, maybe I'll just take really good notes then. I'll ask the organizer. Cool. Yeah, but I think it's going to be the sort of thing of just smoothing onboarding. Oh, I didn't realize my trial to paid rate was really, really low. Over the last 6 months, it's like 2.5% trial to paid, and that feels really low. That feels low, right? Trial to paid should be a lot higher than that.
So this is very interesting because you remember we had Johnny Tong on, and he was complaining about almost the same numbers. If I recall, his trial to paid was in the single digit percentage. So that's interesting. That's a data point that you both are complaining about the same thing. I don't know.
Okay. It felt much lower to see it that it was my number than when it was Johnny's number.
Yeah.
But it like, I am curious about what the highest yield work that I can be doing is, if it is increasing top of funnel, which is what I've been focused on with this marketing stuff, or if it's increasing trial to paid, if it's actually just that like I don't have a smooth enough onboarding process that people can feel like they're going to get value delivered quickly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Something to bring up. I would, at the conference. Yeah.
Cool. I also have some questions, like you suggested, of like if there's a lull in conversation. I've got slides I can jump to
nice.
Pose questions, and then I'm making the majority of the presentation just about File Inbox, and then I have a slide of like, also I'm working on all of these other things, most of which are a distraction, but there's this one that I think is especially promising, clips.marketing, and I have a little spiel on clips.marketing, and part of uploading the slides early is that people can go in and comment on them. So I've already gotten interesting, useful feedback of like, someone commented that my onboarding page is terrible and I need to, or the landing page specifically, and I need to make a better landing page. It's like, fair enough, dude. Yeah, that's right.
For clips.marketing, for File Inbox?
For File Inbox, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it came from someone currently making $60,000 a month. So like, that's probably so that I did it.
I would follow up and say, do you have a good person I could talk to who knows about landing pages or something? Like, I mean,
yeah. I don't know how to do that. I think you like hire a designer or something. I don't know how to make like a really good landing page.
Yeah, I would be careful about hiring a designer. I would hire someone focused on landing pages for SaaS. Like, designer is not necessarily who you want. You want more like a UX person who's focused on high converting landing pages for SaaS. They exist, and so I would try to be specific, because if you just hire a generic designer, they'll hire something. They'll make something that looks nice probably, but it may not convert any better. Like sometimes the worst designed pages are the ones that convert the best. Right. So you want someone who knows about conversions, not about design.
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask this person specifically, like, does it just need to look prettier, or do I need to do something deeper? And is there a person you'd recommend for me to hire? A cool thing about this retreat is like, I'm just going to be hanging out with these people for like a week. Like, I have my hour where it's dedicated, focused on me, where I'm presenting and asking questions, but then we're gonna like watch a movie and like go on a walk, and so I'll have a lot of opportunity to pick people's brains on like specifically what I need to be doing. I'm really curious to see the conversations that happen between these high level people of like, there's people running these multi-million-dollar a year businesses like that have posted slides of problems that they have that they're interested in. And there's other people in the room who like are also running businesses at that scale that are going to be asking them or like recommending things to them of what to improve. So I haven't been this excited about this sort of thing in a while. I think I used to be this excited about MicroConf, but I think I am not anymore, because it has become more of a known quantity. I roughly know who I'm going to see in MicroConf and who I'm going to be interacting with, and the sorts of takeaways that I'm going to get. And there's not as many things that I don't know in SaaS, but this does feel like there's something here that these people are doing that's different than what I'm doing, that is leading to much higher MRR. And if I just pay attention, I can get there too.
Cool. Well, I am excited for you, and excited to hear a bunch of juicy tidbits of information that come out of it.
It's coming soon. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.